We are live on Yonkers Voice, and today our guest is Westchester County Executive, Mr. Ken Jenkins. Ken, thank you for taking the time. I know that you are a busy man today. Election is tomorrow, right?
Yes, election day tomorrow. Right.
Election day is tomorrow. Yesterday we had this great game. Who were you rooting for?
Well, I was rooting for the Eagles. Right?
For the Eagles.
Right.
But now we hope that people take interest for politics in the same way as they do for sports.
Okay.
Because you guys, those that are elected to be our representatives, are the ones that make decisions that actually can better for the best or the worst,
right,
on our daily lives. Mm-hmm. So thank you for taking the time to come down.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
We interviewed you a couple times in the past, and we always try to interview every person that is running for political position. Right. We do not endorse, we do not oppose, we just make our platform available so you can talk with the people that are going to cast that vote in your favor or against you. Who knows? Okay? But our point is to inform.
Absolutely.
It's to inform. How is it going so far?
Well, so far, I mean, one of the things, especially for me, being Deputy County Executive with George Latimer, and now Congressman George Latimer for the past 7 years, I helped build the team, so it wasn't something that was new. So for all of us, it's really that steady hand, and specifically right now, it's necessary to have kind of a steady hand, especially with all of the continual changes happening down at the federal government, and whatever impacts may happen locally. So for me, it's been a tremendous amount of support, everyone working together. I had a unanimous vote by the Board of Legislators, including Margaret Kunzio, who's a conservative, that voted for me to be the interim county executive until the special election tomorrow, and those results are certified. But again, working through these past 7 years, being able to hold the line on taxes for the last 6 years, including 4 years of reducing taxes, understanding the challenges that happen throughout the county in every different community, building 6,600 units of affordable housing throughout the county, making sure that we're keeping crime and working with our local municipal partners to keep violent crime down throughout the county. Again, that's the challenges, and at the bottom line, trying to make sure that we're having a cost of living, an affordable cost of living for the people of Westchester County.
Now, Mr. Jenkins, you see me here touching this. It's not that I'm being disrespectful to you, but I'm multitasking. I'm sharing it so people can hear your message.
Understood.
Okay, and I'm open the dialogue box so people can engage and ask the questions. Because one of the points of what we do is to create that bridge between those we elect to the job and those you serve. Huh? So now there is a connection where they can ask you a question. Things that in the past did not exist. Okay, we would see you on the newspapers, we would see you on certain channels, but I couldn't talk to you.
Well, everyone can talk to us.
No. What I mean is, you were not as easy, as accessible as you are now on the age of social media.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Understood.
So voting based on record, to me, it's very important.
Yep.
It's not like you are a newbie that just, okay, I'm running for this position. Trust me, I am going to do what needs to be done to make your life better. You've actually been on a job. You've been involved on a job.
Both on the County Board of Legislators as well. I mean, I did 10 years on the County Board of Legislators following the great Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins as the legislator for the 16th District. And then, in 2017, competed with George Latimer for the position of county executive, and then we've been together for those 7+ years. And now Congressman George Latimer is in the Congress. But we built this team together. And again, all of the things that we've been engaged with, all of the challenges that happen day to day, yes, there's a record that people can go back and look and see the things that we've been able to do. And whether that's taking challenging issues like dealing with the mental health of the homeless population and making sure that we change things from day one. And the people in Yonkers Voice can currently see that, we kept the shelters open 24 hours. That was not the case when we first came in. And then we worked with the city of Yonkers and our Yonkers Police Department to try to do things differently and do task force, because, again, there's challenges and we have to keep investing in that. When we went through COVID and when no one knew exactly what was going on, the county was a leader in helping navigate that through for everyone and making sure that people not only got tested and vaccinated, turning the county center into a vaccination center, being able to have the conversations not only on the municipal level, but with our school districts to make sure that, you know, young folks could get back into school and be able to have that level of partnership. And that is what's been the success here. That's the kind of secret sauce that we've had for this past 7 years, is to be able to have the conversations, as you said, more open and transparent dialogue, not necessarily things that we have to do, but the things that we did in Westchester, which makes us an anomaly around the state of New York. You know, from being able to move things forward, we've had a blessing here in Westchester County that we've been able to sit down with every municipality, whether they're Democratic-led, Republican-led, or nonpartisan, right, to be able to say, listen, let's listen to the issues, resolve issues. When they come up, let's talk through them and come up with solutions. And that's what we're going to be able to continue to do right from day one.
And how is the congressman doing in Washington? Have you been in touch with him?
Yes, I've seen him a couple of times. I actually saw him this past weekend on Saturday. We were at an event together. We actually didn't talk at that particular event, but we have been engaged and involved throughout the past few weeks. And it's definitely a challenge as the new administration, the Trump administration, has come in and they've made different executive orders, which is causing everyone to react differently to things. What I like to say is that when 2018 came in place and we came in, this administration came into office, President Trump was in office. And we were able to get the Community Development Block Grant program back. That's where dollars are spent on various community activities, senior citizen centers, sidewalks, and all could think of playgrounds. That was stopped under the court order, the Housing Stipulation Agreement, which we worked under the Trump Justice Department to resolve. So we understand how to move these levers of government up at the federal level, the state level, the local levels, and that's what's been, again, the source that's been able for us to be able to move forward and do different things. So again, the Congressman is doing, it's a challenging world down there, and you know, we always try to make sure to keep him in our thoughts and prayers, because down there it's a battle every day to make sure that the New Yorkers and people in the 16th Congressional District get what they want. But for all of us, we're continuing to fight to make sure Westchester continues to move forward.
It's good to have a friend in Washington.
Well, one or two.
One or two who understands our needs and understands what we need. Now, Mr. Jenkins, this is a special elections. A lot of people understand impacts of your decisions and whoever is at that position, but they don't understand the difference between special elections, general elections. Are we going to vote for you now and then we're going to vote for you in November? Do you care to explain so those that are watching us can understand governance?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because there's two things. One is that, you know, I was Deputy County Executive. I was approved by the Board of Legislators to serve in that position after being appointed by County Executive, then George Latimer. So, yes, because George Latimer won the congressional race for the 16th Congressional District, that created a vacancy. And under our county laws, that when a vacancy takes place more than 9 months before an election, and 9 months before the office would be vacant, then you would have a special election, and that's why we're having that. I think that we're going to take a look at that. To be honest with you, we're going to take a look at that to see if we can make some modifications based on where we are now from a primary perspective. Primaries move from September to June, and because of that, the timing has been different. So if you have a scenario like now, why someone would say, well, why would you need to have a special election when we're going to just fill the remaining parts of the congressman's term, of the county executive's term, and then have a regular election basically in November, when the petition process is going to start in another 2 weeks. So why wouldn't we just skip that, have the Board of Legislators make that appointment, and then that carry to the next election? We're going to take a look at that to see if that can make a difference. But that's the reason that it is, because there's a vacancy in the office. The Board of Legislators sets a special election. It has to by within 90 days of the vacancy, and that's why we're in February right now.
But for now, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And tomorrow there is an election. Tomorrow people need to come out and vote.
Yep.
So tell them, you already said it in other words, but tell the people who are watching, why it's important that you actually come out and cast your vote. Because look, I've been living in Yonkers for over 40 years, and every election I hear the same complaint. We have so many people in our county, but only a handful of people show up to vote.
Well, you know something, in presidential years, and that's why the state of New York was moving to try to change on the what they call off-year elections, the local elections that happen in odd number years, to move them to even number years, where there's more people that turn out. They turn out more for the statewide positions like governor, and they turn out more for, obviously, for the president than they do for the local elections. But the truth is, everyone should take this opportunity to vote. We have 660,000 registered voters in the county, in Westchester County, and maybe 25% of them will come out and vote in general. In a presidential year, you can push that up to getting to close to 50% of the electorate going out. But that still means a lot of people don't get engaged and involved. And you can't sit at home, or you can't sit around the table and talk to your friends and say how things aren't when you don't raise your voice. We tell people many times that people fought for the right for people to vote, and whether those folks are people of color or whether they're women, they didn't always have that right to vote when the Constitution was first made. So the only person who could vote then would be a landowner who was a white male, right? No one else could vote at that particular point in time. So everyone should take their opportunity to make sure that their voice is heard. If you like the way that things are going for the past 7 years and the team that we have in place and want to continue to make that going, I would make sure that you come out and certainly support me, because again, from the work that we've been doing, again, everyone seems to be very happy with that. Holding the line on property taxes, making sure that we're working with our partners to keep crime down, and certainly violent crime is down from previous administrations, working to invest in things to make things affordable for the people of Westchester County. And it's really interesting because depending on where you are in Westchester County, affordability means different things. So, you know,
it's very relative.
And it is very relative. So people need to make sure that their voice is heard, and this is your opportunity to do it. We had 10 days of early voting, which ended yesterday. So 10 days of early voting, and with 25 different locations around Westchester County where you can vote anywhere at one of those 25 early voting locations, mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. There's almost no excuse for not at least voting some way, somehow, to make sure your voice is heard. So again, it makes a difference. And again, if you don't vote, you know, necessarily when you have people that are elected in office, then, you know, you didn't give a chance for yourself to make sure your voice was heard.
Guys, remember, you are appreciated in Yonkers Voice. I appreciate that you're sitting the whole day on Yonkers Voice, chit-chatting, exchanging ideas, you know, countering each other's point. But you need to do more than that. You need to come out and vote. That's where your voice is heard. On Yonkers Voice, it's good. We talk, but your vote is important.
But, and you know something, Ben, that there is certainly so many people that have early voted. So again, we had the count from last night. So about 25,000 people took advantage of early voting, which was actually more than people in 2021. So we know that people are engaged and involved. So that in 2021 was the last county executive race. So in the last county executive race, there's more early votes that happened in this early voting round than happened at that point in time. But again, people need to make sure that their voice is heard. And Yonkers Voice people, make sure their voice is heard.
Make sure your voice is heard. Did I mention that we are at Dos Marias, the best Mexican restaurant, not just in Yonkers, Lower Westchester County, possibly New York State, maybe the country.
You know something, we have so many fantastic restaurants, but Dos Marias is an absolute outstanding place to be. And again, as you said, it is absolutely the best Mexican restaurant that is in Westchester County as a whole. Right? There's some other folks that try to stay up with Dos Marias, but you know what? We're here at home in Yonkers. You know, we know what to say.
Well, it's good that Dos Marias. It's great that Dos Marias sets the standards for the other restaurants to come up and compete. I appreciate every single business in my city, in my county. I thank them for investing in Yonkers and making Yonkers a better place. place.
Absolutely, and again, you can't have that happen without the people that are doing Yonkers Voice, right? And watching and participating in Yonkers Voice, but also making sure that you have and you're supporting the business owners. Dos Marias is absolutely that kind of place to do for our Mexican restaurants. But as you pointed out, man, there's so many other great
There is
restaurants.
so many others.
And again, for Yonkers and to continue forward for Westchester County, it makes us be who we are.
Yes. Somebody who you may know that says, Kenny, how are you? Mr. John Van Nostrum. You know John?
I absolutely do. So good seeing John.
John, many others, Charlie Khalil, Michelle Ann, Christina Rodriguez, Jennifer Shulman, Dendry George. A lot of people are watching us, and a lot of people are listening. And a lot of people maybe have not made their mind yet. So this is the time for them to listen. Westchester County Legislator, we have some questions that came in. First two questions come from Delphine Hausler, who asked, how do you see the county in the next 40 years? That's question one. Second question, what are the main issues as you see in Westchester County?
Well, the main issues in Westchester County are really dealing with the challenges that we have at each level of government, and whether that's the federal level or the state level. There's so many changes coming so quickly, and one of the things, because of having the experience in dealing and understanding how to move those levels of government, for us and for me specifically, I think that gives us a chance to be calm instead of reacting to every little thing that happens. Because the truth is that every little thing may be big impacts to people, right? And what we always understood, and we continue to understand, that every decision that we make in Westchester County has a person behind it, has some kind of thing that happens for someone. So I wake up every day and say, how can I help someone? And I've continued that whether I was in elected office, appointed office, or just a person that's been active in the community, to continue to do that. The main problems that we're going to continue to face is how to deal with climate change, specifically flooding, and how that connects to housing, right? And fair and affordable housing at that. A lot of times we need to make sure how we can drive down costs. And whether that's for our transportation system, most people know, certainly all the Yonkers Voice people know, that the county runs the Beeline bus system, which has not had a fare increase. I don't even know how long it's been. That's how long it's been since we've had a fare increase. And we've also tried to make sure to provide free transportation to encourage people to take our bus system. So how do we continue to do that work? And again, making sure things are fair and affordable for everyone. Trying to make sure people can get back and forth to work is one way. Making sure that we're invested in road safeties and continue to do that for us. We've been blessed in Westchester County because of the work that we've done together to get a AAA bond rating from S&P. That just came back this year. That lets us spend $385 million of capital projects and get those at lower cost, which in turn lets us keep taxes down low. So we're going to keep working all of those together, and I think those are the main problems. But everything is at the base of that relationships. And one of the things, Ben, as you know, for the years that we've been talking together, is that the relationships that you build help us be in this polarized environment. So whether it's a left polarized or right polarized, to make sure that we're in Westchester getting things done and working with people to get those done. Not party on either side, right? But to make sure that the people of Westchester are benefiting, and we're going to keep fighting those battles.
Somebody just said, but. What about the homeless? A few years back, we had an interview at your office, and we spoke about the homeless. Homeless, it's a problem all over the United States. It's not exclusively to Yonkers.
That's right.
But this interview is about Westchester County and Yonkers, okay, and things that affect all of us at many levels. We see homeless here in Yonkers, and lots of people blame our administration here in Yonkers for the homeless situation. They don't have a place to stay, the shelters are not safe, okay, we need more, and sometimes people don't understand that just giving a homeless person a place to sleep does not resolve the homeless problem.
And that's one of the things that we've been able to do in various programs, and whether it's our Project Alliance project, which was an outreach from the police reform and reinvention that happened after the murder of George Floyd, was to be able to say, all right, how can we do things differently? So we have put that in place, and we have tremendous statistics that we have worked with our local law enforcement to be able to say, here's the scenario, and now how do we get those folks that had police interaction or avoided police interaction and had health issues. And as you said, most of the challenges with homeless and anyone is that there's multiple scenarios going on, and how do we resolve them? So Project Alliance has given us data that we can be able to work with local municipalities and say, here's the data in your community, and we need more supportive housing. Because a lot of times the homelessness is driven based on a co-occurring and substance abuse or misuse scenario, whether that's alcohol or any other drugs, right, that are being misused. Then we turn around and say, how do we create more affordable housing for them, right? So you have a shelter system that's one place, and that's emergency shelter, and we have different versions of that. And we always fight when people say, oh, the shelters aren't safe. We work really hard with our shelter partners to make sure that people feel safe in those communities. But we have to separate those people that have additional challenges. And we keep working with our local municipalities here in Yonkers to do task force and be able to get people the help that they need. And usually in supportive housing, that means a detoxification thing that's really intense, and then going into a different set of housing where people have the services brought into them, to the third level when people are out on their own and doing that. And that's a lot of work to make sure that that gets done, and it never happens fast enough for people, but you need to understand that your county continues to be working with our local municipal partners, with the city of Yonkers, in this case for Yonkers Voice, and our social services with law enforcement to make sure that we're getting to those problems. And this year, you saw Governor Hochul do something in her state, in her budget proposal, to do involuntary, admission, right, where you basically take someone who is not taking care of themselves, and then you are able to commit them. So involuntary commitment in those things, that will address some of those issues, because it's really difficult to take somebody's rights away by involuntary sending them to an institution for support. Well, it's supposed to be hard to do that because that's taking away someone's rights. And in this case, the governor proposed in her state budget, and that'll go through this process with the state legislators to address those, because those are some really serious and intense folks that are doing that. The county has reopened up another facility that was lost under the previous administration, where they closed the particular facilities that could not take those people that had those really, really challenging mental health diagnoses. And administration closed that. And they weren't alone in doing that, but they did it here in Westchester in the previous administration, and across the country, as you said. That's created homelessness and challenges that go along with it. So we're doing those steps, but they never happen fast enough for people.
Well, that's why you were elected, Mr. George Latimer was elected, to offer solutions. We all know the challenges, we all know the problems. But you guys voted to resolve and find solutions for those problems. Mm-hmm. Now, do you have metrics that actually can do a comparison how homeless situation, mental illness situation was when you and your team became the administration, and now? Where are we? Same, more or less, a little better, a little worse? Where are we?
Well, actually, we're a lot better as far as the challenges that have gone on with opioids and opioid deaths, and people that have been unfortunately lost between that particular opioids. So we have those statistics. We also have those statistics I was pointing out from Project Alliance that said these folks were diverted from police interaction to having health interactions, and we have statistics on that. Now we work with our local municipalities and say, well, here's our housing situation. We have a housing matrix that we look at and say, here's the kind of housing that you need based on the studies, and here's the statistic that says we were able to divert these folks, but they need supportive housing. They don't need thousands of units of housing, they use 10 units of housing, and we need to work with those. So we have all of those statistics that we continue to present, but the challenge Ben, as you know, and folks on Yonkers Voice know, that things move rapidly, and when you fix problem A, then it migrates to problem B, right? So we just had a meeting with Attorney General Letitia James over the past 2 weeks, where we had all of our partners that we have been able to partner with from our opioid settlement dollars. So the Attorney General has brought something like $4 billion into the state of New York for opioid from those manufacturers, from the Sackler family and from those folks, and how are we utilizing those dollars. And we've created these programs with partners with the county under Commissioner Michael Orff and Community Mental Health and various partners to be able to address the issues and get out into the street, community workers, I mean, all kinds of things to make sure that we're trying to make that difference. As you said, we got elected and appointed to be able to try to do things, and again, those statistics are working, and we have them that we can share with people.
Now, this question comes from Brian Harrod, and as you have noticed, we are moving from point to point because we are asking the questions as they come in.
Yes.
Brian asks, how do you plan to keep property taxes low while ensuring essential services are maintained?
Well, we've been able to do that for the past 6 years, and again, it gets more challenging as costs go up, right? As the cost for personnel go up and the cost for programmatic activities go up, but we're going to continue to fight to ensure that we're making sure that we're keeping taxes as low as possible. We've been able to keep them 0 or lower for the past 6 years, right?
Lower than 0?
Lower than 0 for 4 years, right? So we reduced taxes for 4 of those 6 years. And again, it'd be nice to say, oh yes, we're going to continue to do that, but we're going to continue to fight to make sure that they're as low as possible. If we can do 0, great. But we asked our nonprofit partners, we asked our departments to tighten their belts to make sure that they're doing everything possible with the precious tax dollars that we have invested and people have invested in us. And we're going to keep working hard to make sure that continues. But again, it would be unrealistic to keep telling people, yes, you can keep making that magic happen because you're tightening belts. And sooner or later, you're going to tighten that belt, and now you're going to cut into bone, right? Mm-hmm. And we want to make sure that the programs that we put in place, and that's been for us in the county, because of the work of the 4,200 employees that we have in Westchester County and great leadership, a great leadership team to be able to say to people, look, we're going to make sure that before we invest in this program, we can keep it going. So we don't take extra dollars that we have and just say, let's do this because we may not be able to continue that. What we've been able to do is be able to manage that. And Brian, thanks for the question.
Look, we look at our city, Yonkers, we look at our county, Westchester County, and we see lots of new investors coming. In Yonkers, you go to the west side, you see Lionsgate.
Yep.
They came to build, I believe, 3 studios, 4 studios, don't quote me on that. Now they are talking about possibly 5 more studios.
Yep.
Even though we are happy that people are coming and investing in our city, our county, but that has a negative impact as well. Prices going up, people cannot afford to live in the city or the county where generations of their families been living. What initiatives have you taken to attract new business and support local entrepreneurs?
Well, we have from our economic development that's led by Bridget Gibbons to be able to continue to push on our life sciences. Here at Hollywood on the Hudson here in Yonkers, there's been the blessings both with Lionsgate and certainly the Robert Halemi School that was at the old Leakin Watts or Rising Ground property, which is 50 or 60 acres.
On Hawthorne, right?
On Hawthorne, right? So the old Leakin Watts property where they built the school for now people and young folks to be able to get into the film and theater business, and that's not always in front of the camera like we're doing. They may be behind the camera, right? And they may be doing other work that happens to be background and lighting and audio and all those great things. And I know that they want to try to do those extra 5 studios up in that area, and the community is pushing back a bit on that because they said that there's going to be traffic and changes, et cetera, and that's not That's not an unusual challenge to face. But again, it's on a big campus, and it may be able to not negatively impact the community as much. But we'll see how that progresses. But we will continue to work with Westchester County and our local communities to make sure that that happens. And on the opposite side of that, we take our housing needs assessment and go with the local municipality and say, here's the housing that we determined that you needed in your municipality here in Yonkers. You need more supportive housing. You need supportive housing, meaning affordable housing. Everyone that works in the studios isn't a major movie star. There's people that's making the donuts and they're doing the work. They're making sure that they're doing the maintenance. They're making sure that they're doing lighting and they're doing electrician work, etc. And some of those folks need to have those housing units here in Yonkers. And when you do all the development that's happened on the waterfront and people are displaced, as you were pointing out, people that have lived in the community for generations, right? So we lost those housing units and we didn't replace them with something else that was like. So again, Yonkers working with the county helps to encourage those between the programs that we have. We had a program that we started with that was $10 million when we walked in the door. Now it's $50 million, which is our new homes land acquisition, which has a nonprofit partner work with a developer to buy a property, ends up being for $1. And then we have an infrastructure fund that takes care of sidewalks and streets and water and sewer and all those other kind of things that need to be done for infrastructure with the local municipality. So a partnership to help drive those things down. We put together a $100 million flex fund for the projects that a local municipality approved, the county wanted to move forward with, but had challenges because of supply chain cost increases or had challenges because of rising interest rates. And they were not able to move forward on those projects. So we put $100 million together to do that, and that's been able to work to make those projects work. So we have some of those advantages here in Yonkers. Yonkers is blessed because it has the 3 train lines that it can access, 2 that are direct access, the 3rd one on the New Haven side that you can get to. But for that whole beautiful Hudson River, we have to do that balance to make sure that we're building affordable units. Those things don't happen easily, right? But the county's going to continue this leadership role in it.
Another subject that affects a lot of people here in Yonkers and the county is crime. Okay, I know about the crime in Yonkers because I cover most of them.
Oh yes, I watch it too.
Yeah, I cover most of them. But I don't have much information about the other municipalities, but I'm sure that you know about them. You are the Westchester County Executive, you have that information. Here in Yonkers, I have noticed that the majority of those crimes, violent crimes, shootings, stabbings, fatal, terrible acts, are committed by young adults, teenagers. We know there is a problem, but what is, according to you, what is the root of the problem?
Well, you know something, I think that, there's so many different roots of the problem. Some people think that some of the roots of the problem with the changes that were done in Raise the Age. Raise the Age of accountability doesn't say that you should go out and create more violent crime, right? It says that you shouldn't be creating a scenario where somebody that's young is being taught how to be a career criminal. So I'm making sure that the Raise the Age components are moving forward. We have some input in that as far as the facilities that we have to do, which is Woodfield Cottage, and be able to see what things happen. But that's a combination with the district attorney, who would say to a crime, especially those violent crimes, that needs to go into adult and criminal court versus being something that was less than violent, that would have to go through the family court scenario, which the county attorney's office deals with. But again, there's so many different factors. There's not one specific thing to point to and to say, you know what, this one thing is, if we fix this one thing, we can fix this problem. A lot of times, as you pointed out with homelessness, that there's multiple things that are impacted. Is someone getting the education system? Yonkers is doing great. You know, 90% graduation rate. There's still 10% that aren't graduating, well, what happened to those 10% of those folks? Are they ended up being lost in the system, and then they're turned into crime to be able to feed themselves and their families, et cetera? So again, it's not one easy answer, but the county continues to invest in our youth bureau, in the early step forward programs to do whatever creative things that we can do to try to address that problem, because the last, as you pointed out, the last few things that happened were young people that were acting inappropriately and end up being in stabbings, and one of them died, right? So again, right, the scenario is like, well, what things are going on? We invest with community, our early step forward program, and many mental health programs in the school system to deal with conflict resolution, so that people don't use weapons, whether those are guns and knives, etc. So we got to keep working it.
But Mr. Jenkins, what I was trying to get to is, look, if you build a beautiful house, there might be many reasons why that house might collapse. Mm-hmm. But there is one fundamental reason that might bring that house down: the foundation. If the foundation of that house is not good, regardless what's up there,
that's true.
Okay, that house will come down sooner or later. When it comes to kids, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, a lot of the things start at home.
Well, again, all of those challenges, and the more that we have a world where there's so many different levels of pressure, you have different things, especially in social media for our young folks, and you see people trying to address those problems because, again, they change. You know, we all would tell jokes, and I'm old enough now to be in a place that's like, yes, remember when our parents would tell us that they walked uphill in no shoes, in the snow, both ways. Well, you know what? People are going to still say those same things. Our young folks now have so many different, faster impacts. So, like you said, that foundation for a young person is education. It doesn't matter, you know, where they're from, which community they're from. You start with the base level of education, and then what other things can you have in a community that makes some sense. And we got to keep working and keep making sure that we're changing and modifying with the times, because it was easier. You know, there's people that don't know. You have your iPad out and you're able to work it. There's some people that can't do that, and the young folks have a better idea of how to make that work. I mean, people like, you know, get a young person to make that TikTok video, and I'm like, I never did one, right? But at the end, we have to keep investing and modifying in people, which is why it's such a tragedy for me to watch what things are happening at the federal government, where someone's going to come in the door and just say, let's just get rid of people, right? It seems like we need more investment in the people and workers to help support the foundation and the building of that foundation. Because if you keep saying, well, you know what, we don't need anyone else to do this, a computer can make up that foundation. That's not true, right? Right? You need to have a family that's being able to have support. And again, it doesn't mean that their income is at XYZ level, because everyone has challenges. They're just at a different intensity depending on the resources that you have to address them. And the lower ability that you have to address those issues, that's when more challenges take place. But it doesn't mean that we don't have the challenges if somebody at a high income level or the lower income level. It's just what resources do you have to help you, right? So if you have insurance, you have resources to help you in your insurance. But if you don't have insurance, well, you may have family members, and the next thing you know, that young person is off on a stray trail. In another different community in New Rochelle, it seemed like what I saw, at least in the media, that was portrayed, that it was a young man that was an immigrant that was just left on the street, and 2 people got arrested from that. And his uncle, who he was staying with, suggested that, you know what, he might have got involved in the wrong people. Well, how do we make sure that people don't get involved in the wrong people unless we have other resources, that we have youth groups and youth activities and all those kind of things that make up the community? And that's what Yonkers Voice does so well.
Now, you just mentioned migrants. We see the situation that is going on. Yonkers was declared to be a sanctuary city. Would you say that Westchester County is a sanctuary county?
Well, one is,
Or maybe we need to define sanctuary, I don't know.
I think that's part of the challenge. In our Immigrant Protection Act in the county, and I'm pretty confident in Yonkers, neither one is declared a sanctuary county or sanctuary city. So I don't know how that comes about. For us, what our Immigrant Protection Act says is how we interact with federal law enforcement. And everyone should understand federal law enforcement interactions, whether that is ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, or any other federal law enforcement, is not new. That's been happening from the beginning of time, right? What's new right now is the perp walk version of that, where somebody's on social media showing that activity occurring, and now people are reacting. And that was my point I was saying earlier, that no matter what it is, if everyone is jumping at this particular thing that's happening as opposed to being calm and rational and saying, all right, well, here's your rights. No, we don't understand your rights. Westchester is not a sanctuary county. That's in our law. It says that in the law, that it specifically says we're not a sanctuary county, but we don't do the federal government's job, right? The federal government does their own job. They don't ask us to do it. We don't do their job. If you have a federal warrant, here's how we interact with you. And people have been interacting with those over the years since the Immigrant Protection Act, the IPA, was created, one by executive order by County Executive Latimer, and then enacted into law by the Board of Legislators, that says, here's how we interact, here's how you make those communications, and we know we follow the law, because you're innocent until proven guilty in our country, right?
So it's nothing new when federal agents come to our city, our county, how the engagement is supposed to be and how the protocol is supposed to be followed.
That is right. And the protocols have been evaluated by the federal government, and we're matching those laws. So everyone that wants to try to suggest anything else is just not telling the truth, and they're trying to push buttons. You know, I was in Somers, speaking to a group up in Somers, and someone asked me that question, and I said the same thing I just mentioned to you, and they said, well, that person should not have been here in the country. I was like, well, that person was here for 18 years, right? That means the immigration system is broken, right? If you're an asylum seeker and it takes you 8 years to get through your case, that means, again, back to the place, you need more federal workers, not less federal workers, and being able to fix a problem so that those asylum seeker claims can be addressed, and those that have actual issues and challenges in their communities and their countries move forward. Our IPA was built and maintained, and again, in the various different communities where it made it safe for someone to report crimes as an immigrant. You know, something's happening to them, they're not getting paid appropriately, they're getting for their landlords that are paying, they're paying rent to their landlord, and their landlord says, if you don't tell me, if you don't pay me more money, or you don't sexually engage with me, then I'm going to report your immigration status. That's against the law, right? And one of the things in many of the communities that immigrants, and not just our Hispanic, Latino immigrants from around the world, they're fleeing for places where you don't trust the police. You can't trust the police. Well, this was giving an opportunity for people to have a safer community overall. And as all of the statistics tell us that people that are in the country undocumented are the ones that are the least potential of committing crimes, because they don't want anybody to know you're here, right? So if you don't want to get caught, you don't want to be in trouble, you don't want to do anything, you want to just follow the law, you want to go to work and you pay taxes. You may not file a tax return, but they're paying taxes, they're paying Social Security, billions of dollars. You know what? Everyone just needs, again, in that situation, to get to the place to say, how do we address the issues? If someone in the Somers scenario, the person was in a domestic violence scenario, and we had two, right? At the end of domestic violence awareness one was a person that was undocumented, and they were here for 18 years, and they killed and shot the girlfriend's son. We had another one that happened a week later from a guy from Queens in another domestic violence situation where he shot, and a woman was holding the baby and shot, and he hit the mother-in-law, right? Or the mother-in-law, if he was engaged or whatever to her. So the girlfriend's mother, right? But he was from Queens, and they didn't have the same reaction. You know what? They're horrific tragedies, period, stop. The people that were involved in that need to be accountable. You don't need to say, oh, that person should be deported, because that person would not face the crimes. They would not face the punishment. I think they should face the full extent of the law, and whatever punishment that happens should happen. And after that, the federal law enforcement folks should go to court and say, you know what, let's get a court order, because we know where the person is, get a court order. It's not that hard to be able to go and present that information and say why that person should be deported. That's one of the challenges that we have right now. I know we got to work through that. We have a lot of scared people, and we're working with all our partners at every level to make sure that they understand in Westchester County we follow the law, and everyone should be respected, period. Right.
Now, I have one more question. Yeah. I know that you have another meeting. They're waiting for you. Yeah. So I'm going to ask the last question, and then I'm going to give you the honor to do the close-up, sir. Can you discuss any upcoming projects aimed at promoting sustainability and protecting the environment in our county?
Well, we have several in Westchester County, and we're going to continue to work with our partners at every level, because climate change is real. We know here in Yonkers, I was standing, I said, on the train station this morning, and that train station has to be raised 8 feet. All right, the train line and the Hudson line, 20 miles, has to be raised 8 feet, or we won't have a Hudson line, right? That's up close, personal, and those are dollars, by the way, that come from congestion pricing. That's going to help raise those train lines, so people should, understand what they're talking about when they're talking out there. We have our tree invest, which are our tree program in Westchester County, where we're going to put in 1,000 new trees. And places like Yonkers need to understand that more green space, more trees, make sure that we don't have a sidewalk or asphalt in a playground be just a heat sink. So that will help people in Yonkers specifically by planting Westchester, by doing that. We're going to continue to work on our flooding mitigation, because whether you live on a road with a body of water in its name, it's going to flood. The Bronx River and the Sawmill River, right? Parkways, even the Spring Brook, even though it doesn't happen as much on the Spring Brook, but the Hutch and the Sawmill River, those folks right at the bottom of Executive Boulevard, the road's designed to flood, right? That was what it was designed to do. So we got to keep working on those things, and we're going to keep working with the Environmental Bond Act, and we have some programs that are going to be rolling out shortly so people can see it.
Well, on that note, we're going to conclude our interview. I thank you very much for watching, but remember that we need to do more than just watching, more than just debating on Yonkers Voice, even though that is fine. But casting your vote, it's the way your voice is heard. Politely, respectfully, do what you should be doing. Vote on election day. Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking the time.
Ben,
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Until next time.